All right, so this video I'm going to help you out with assignment 9-1 and the spatial join. So in this assignment, you're asked to identify cities and populations possibly affected by earthquakes. And so after we add in all of our data, it asks you to use buffers, select by location, spatial join to learn the number of cities and the total population within 10 miles for the given data. And this asks you what data should be on the map, earthquakes, earthquake buffers, and counties, and then it asks you to add a text box that lists the number of earthquakes, number of cities, total population, and anything else. So let's look at our map. What I went ahead and did was, hopefully the part you understood, was to create that 10-mile buffer to identify the cities around each earthquake that are at risk or potentially at risk of having impacts from the earthquakes. Now what we need to do is identify which cities are within the buffer zones. So you could do this by looking at select by location to identify all the cities within the buffers. We can just skip straight to a spatial join instead of having to identify based on location, and then after identifying location, creating a spatial join with those selected features. So we can skip straight to our spatial join, and for our target features, we are going to have that be the buffer zones. We are going to have California cities be the join features because that's what we want our the attributes of our cities to be joined to our buffers. I'm just realizing let me delete this one. And we'll keep all the target features. We also need to go through our fields. Because we need to identify our we need to identify the population field, and we need to set the merge rule to sum, so it will sum all of the population totals for each of the cities. So for each of the orange squares, it's going to sum all of those features, and I'll show you how you can double check those results when we're done. So go ahead, click on Run. Let the spatial join run. We'll end up with our spatial join to these buffers, this new buffer, and we can right click and look at the attribute table. And see that it's telling us, one, how many cities were joined to each buffer. So this buffer had 29 cities. It's one in Los Angeles County. And if you look back at the documentation, a city has to have at least 1,000 people. And we can see that we have a population of 5,100,710 for these 29 cities. You will see some earthquakes that have no population, and that is because, oops, not what I wanted to do. That is because, oh gosh darn it, too much. That is because if you zoom in on the area, there are no cities of over 1,000 people within that 10-mile buffer. So you will have some that have null, and that's okay. So how to check that these totals are correct. Sorry for the editing. Let me go back. It's not what we want to be doing. Okay, clear. Okay. We want to check our values to make sure they're correct. So let's check that same earthquake. We are going to select just the individual earthquake for verification. So right now we have one earthquake selected. I'm sorry, we have one buffer selected, and that is our near Whittier Narrows earthquake in 1987 that has the 29 cities. So to double check that population total, what we will do is use this selected buffer to select by location. Alright, so we're in spatial join, and we'll change this to cities. And apply. Okay. So now we see that we have all of our cities selected. So we can, cities within that buffer selected. We'll click on attribute table. We will right click on our population field and go to statistics. And we will see that our selected cities have that same value of 5,100,710. So if we were to repeat and change the selection and change the earthquake that we are selecting, we can reselect those cities and double check. So that's how you verify, in case you wanted to double check that your selection or the spatial join values were correct.